Hello students, welcome to PRL 300. We are in week 3 and this week we will be focusing on ethics within the field of public relations. If you take a look at our week 3 agenda on this lecture as well as in Blackboard, you'll see we're reading chapters 7 through 9 of our course text as well as reading some information on PR writing that's embedded within the Blackboard module. We are also watching a number of videos. We're watching 4 videos. One is on personal branding, since our branding project is due this week, as well as 3 on ethics and PR. The last ethics video is on journalistic ethics and lazy reporting. This is very valuable information. As PR practitioners, we often work with journalists to get information out about our clients, so it's important to be aware of some of their ethical lapses that may occur while they're reporting and such. So that's really what the nature of that is, so you can be aware of that. In the complete section, we are completing a discussion board number 3 with our original post due Friday and our reply post due by Sunday. We have assignment number 3 due, and your personal branding project is due. There has been some modifications to the branding project. You do not have to post it to the discussion board. You won't find a module in there or anything like that. So if you refer to the syllabus and see that, that is not an error. You're just going to submit it directly to me. This way you can spend the entire week completing it up until Sunday if you want, instead of having to post it by Friday and reply by Sunday to give you a little more time. As we move through the course content, it's important to see here, this is a snapshot of what's required for discussion board number 3. Essentially, you're explaining why media relations and media writing is important for the field of public relations. You're providing examples of public relations deliverables that require effective specialized writing. If, for example, links and things like that, or maybe a PDF of something that you found. What I'm essentially looking for there is maybe some examples of some media writing pieces that could be utilized for public relations, like a press release or some website content or things of that nature. That would be a PR deliverable, so something that you create, some type of strategic communication you create that requires specialized writing for the field. So some type of written content you would have to get out for a client. After you do that, you'll then need to explain why research and legal concerns are important when preparing print and online materials. For public relations, you'll rely on chapters 7 through 9 for a lot of that. And your entire post needs to be at least 400 words, submitted no later than Friday, and then you need to respond to at least 2 course mates no later than Sunday. Additionally, we have assignment number 3. Assignment number 3 asks you to review all of the information in the Blackboard module for this week, and then write 100 words of reflection on media relations. You need to provide examples of effective media relations, and you need to provide links to articles and websites or screenshots and things of that nature that shows how those are examples of effective media relations. Now remember, the goal of media relations and public relations really is to focus on how and why what you want to communicate to your audience. So as a PR practitioner, one of your number 1 goals and priorities is effectively communicating with the media, because what they report is a direct reflection of how your public or your audience or whoever you're trying to reach through that mode of communication will perceive you. So it's really important that you spend some time looking on that. Additionally, you will be working on the branding project. In this sense here, you have turned in your outline in week 2, which I'm going through. And if there's any particular issue with your outline, then I will let you know. However, there's not much feedback to be given on that. The bulk of the grading is really within the actual branding project itself. So this is where you will create your branding project. You'll use VoiceThreads or some type of thing like Glogster or video or screencast or something like that to present your branding project with your voice video, along with providing a 2 to 3 paragraph explanation of the learning experience from this assignment and why you particularly utilize this assignment. You'll come up with your own personal brand, tagline, things of that nature. This is where you're going to include pictures and scriptures and things like that that really show us who you are. What is your brand? Who are you? We do this a lot, and actually a lot of branding experts do this a lot in their branding training to help people really understand how you brand something. If you can't brand yourself and you can't share and explain to somebody in a presentation who you are and what you represent, then it would be difficult for you to do that for a client. So that's really the nature behind this particular assignment. I'm going to focus today on some things from the PRSA Code of Ethics. You're reading through ethics, law, and research this week, and it's important they have great information in those chapters. This Tell really provides a lot of information that's very useful, but it's important for us to take a look at and see what PRSA says about this, because ultimately, as you move into practicing public relations, most of you will probably obtain some type of PRSA membership. They're the leading organization and the #1 organization for PR professionals in the nation and globally, so it's really important to spend some time looking at that. The PRSA Code of Ethics is divided into 2 sections. The first section you'll see here is the PRSA member statement of professional values. This is where most of us focus on in terms of what a code of ethics is and what it represents. This is what you adhere to as a member to uphold as a PR professional. So the preamble really tells us what the nature of PRSA members are, how they guarantee to uphold the code of ethics and set forth as industry standard for professional practice, and that these values are a fundamental belief guide for PR practitioners' behaviors and decision making. So there's 6 areas: advocacy, honesty, expertise, independence, loyalty, and fairness. And really what these 6 areas tell us is that in advocacy, we vow to serve the public interest by acting as an advocate. You're an advocate for those you represent. It's important, though, as you act as an advocate, that you remember that you're not just an advocate for your client, you're also an advocate for the public you represent. So if you're doing public relations for a shoe company and you want to build awareness about their brand, you're not just representing the shoe company, you're also representing the consumers that would buy into that brand. So it's a double-edged sword. We always have to maintain neutral and be advocates for those we're representing. Honesty is pretty self-explanatory. It's where you're trying to adhere to the highest standards of accuracy and truths. And sometimes truth and accuracy comes in the form of being above reproach and not being less than truthful. And that's something that you need to be aware of there. So as we communicate with the public, it's important to be honest in all aspects of it, not necessarily disclose information that may be a liability, but not to be less than truthful. Expertise is where you promise you're going to use and acquire and responsibly maintain the specialized knowledge and experience you have as being a PR professional. You promise to advance the profession through continued professional development, research, and education to build mutual understanding and credibility, and to remain as a confident advocate for your client. Independence is that you're providing objective counsel to those we represent. That's really where we get into this idea of that you represent the shoe company, yes, if you're doing PR for them, but you also represent their public. So you need to maintain a certain level of objective counsel and independence to accurately represent both of them. Loyalty is self-explanatory. Most of us know what that is, and it just applies here in a professional sense, that you're faithful to those we represent and honoring the obligations to serve the public interest above all. That's what your ultimate loyalty is in public relation. Public relations is to serve an obligation to serve public interest. And then fairness is being fair and respecting all opinions and the support of right and free expression. Now, those are the statement of professional values. Once you get into the code of ethics, there's provisions of conduct. And this is what you see here. These provisions of conduct are 6 areas in which they have organized of ethical areas of concern that we need to make sure that we're highly ethical within. So the first one is free flow of information. We're going to protect and advance the free flow of accurate and truthful information to serve the public interest. We're not going to disrupt a free flow of information or freedom of the press. Competition. You're going to promote healthy and fair competition among professionals, but preserve an ethical climate while fostering a robust business environment. So we're going to be ethical with the competition. We're not going to discredit them or do unethical measures to discount our competition in some way. Disclosure of information is a provision in which we say that we're going to foster open communication and informed decision-making process within our democratic society, as well as safeguarding confidences and understanding that client trust requires an appropriate amount of protection for confidential and private information. We're going to avoid real, potential, or perceived conflicts of interests. And so that's really important because there's a huge difference between real, potential, and perceived conflicts of interest. Real conflicts of interest are those that we know exist. Potential are ones that could arise within the situation we're working in, and the third one is perceived, something that you know may not be a conflict of interest, but it could be perceived as one to somebody else. And then lastly is enhancing the profession. We're always working to enhance the profession. And so this code provision of conduct is really where we start to organize ethical situations and really work on developing our educational skills and understanding the potential of ethical situations within those areas. And so this is more of the practice where ethical situations will arise. They'll arise in disrupting the free flow of information, or within being competitive, or within disclosing information, or safeguarding conflicts, or confidences, or having a conflict of interest and such. Whereas the the PRSA member statement of professional values is more of how we personally act. And so that's where we kind of keep that in mind. As you go through this week, remember we're reading chapters 7 and 9, as well as some information on PR writing in the Blackboard module. We have a number of videos to watch in addition to this lecture. We're completing discussion board number 3, which is due on Friday and Sunday, and assignment number 3 and the personal branding project, those are due on Sunday. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to interacting with you and ultimately seeing your personal branding projects at the end of this week so I can get to know you all a little better. I pray you all have a blessed week, and goodbye.